It's on the
broad
Kingdom page. You can just share it.
AKA card, and it's on the Kingdom page. Yeah.
Ready?
All right. So starting off, BoD meeting.
What exactly?
Sorry, is that somebody talking, or is that just background of somebody?
Pretty sure it's just background noise.
Background. Okay. So in attendance, we got myself, we got Sean, we got Cameron, we got Red. Jason's here, Amanda's here, and Charles is here. Awesome. Full house. Did I miss anybody?
Threw me to hear Charles. Sorry.
Oh, okay. All right. So the only item on the agenda is an informational item for everybody. Somebody pointed out that on the YouTube account, there is a feature called where basically you can enable ads in the YouTube videos and gather some income from that based on the ad showing, or those with a YouTube premium subscription would also contribute a couple cents to the videos that they watch. With a little bit of experience that I've had with that, I decided to dive into it. And so technically we could preemptively enable it if we so wished, but we're a little ways from meeting the requirements where it actually do anything for us. The two requirements before you start actually generating a revenue from that type of thing is the amount of minutes viewed in a month. And we actually, because of the length of our meetings, we're totally passing that one. So we've got that one in the bag. But our subscriber count is far below the 1,000 subscribers required to get it. We're at 80 something, I believe, when I looked. So a far cry from that one. Currently, I'd kind of lean towards not enabling it at the moment, but that's something that we should definitely watch for, that if we started to grow the YouTube account, the Kingdom one, that we could in the future generate, a few bucks here and there from that, if we wanted to, heckle our viewers with a few commercials from YouTube.
Well, in my personal experience, my gaming clan has their own YouTube channel, and we didn't really have effective revenue gaining until we hit about, I don't know, I think we had hit about like 10,000 to 11,000 before it really started to make a difference. Yeah. I imagine for a Kingdom that would be astronomically higher. I mean, we're just like 4 people wanting to make a little bit of extra change.
It depends on what we do with it in the future, because if we started, publishing some, say, leadership classes or some other kind of cool tutorials that were more, interesting to AmpGuard at large, internationally, we could maybe start hitting numbers that would be maybe worthwhile. But otherwise, I pretty much agree with you. I don't think it's something we're going to be real easy.
Out of curiosity, do we have someone that's, nominally like I'm sorry, rephrase. Do we have anybody who's has regularly putting content onto that, or is it only really these meetings that are on that account?
For the most part, it's the meetings. There's been a few other short run series. Was the chopping block run through this? I see it as a playlist, but I'm not sure if it was run through this account. Anyway,
I'm not sure if it was.
Yeah, I believe it was.
Okay, so that one was, so there's a few other small series, but nothing that I'm aware of at the moment that it's being used for besides these CoC and BoD meetings. But that's something that we should advertise, that if folks are interested in and they want to do it, let's hook them up and, expand. That's something that could be totally awesome. We'll have to kind of be careful with, quality control, because we don't want to, embarrass ourselves per se, but otherwise, yeah.
Yeah,
we're awesome. So that was the main item that was on the agenda for tonight for the BoD. I will just go ahead and make a motion to adjourn.
I second it.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yep.
Cool. Any opposed? No. All right. So we're adjourned at 8:14 p.m. Yay. All right, on to the next item. So, humana, we are jumping over to the CoC meeting. Present. Oh, I lost my. I have to type it all in again. Okay. We got Ravenstone. We got Frozen Coast. We got Astral Winds. We got. Chapman would be the ex officio. Whoa. Oh, of course, we got Lupin Moon. Am I missing anybody? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, yep. We're gonna call. We'll put Mara down too. Alrighty. Item 1. We'll just chop through. We'll just blow through these real quick. So the first question is Grand Academy. Are there any updates? And I'm assuming the only one that could potentially have anything possibly would be Goran. And so if you don't have anything, pass.
I know. I got updates.
Oh, you got a thing. Okay.
Yeah, actually, just this afternoon, Hadelin got word from the school.
Goran,
school.
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
I'm sorry. I'll speak up. Is that better? No? Yes? Is it quiet or is it choppy? What's the deal?
It's quiet. It's really quiet.
Huh. Okay. Is that any better?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, weird. Okay. So I can't have my charger plugged in while I'm talking. So was it Palmer High School? Or whatever, whichever Valley High School that she was working with, got back with her today and said that it wouldn't. She was led to believe it would be free. It turns out it is not, and it's going to be like $300 or $400 a day. So that's less viable. So she's working on a couple other sites. I mean, right now I'm not sure what other options there are, but she's been calling people today while she's down in Michigan. So we're sort of stuck without a site at the moment. I know that she's working with Drake. Drake's offered to let us use his dojo at certain times. I don't know if we'll be able to. We can't really run Grand Academy in total from there, but it's possible that we can use a combination of sites. I don't know. If anybody has any ideas or thoughts on where we might be able to hold the event, otherwise, we're starting to run out of time.
Have you tried the Denina Center?
How much money do you guys want to spend?
I don't know what they cost.
Yeah,
I was just curious if you'd look into that.
That's going to be like 4 figures a day.
Oh, okay. So it's the same as the school. Okay.
Oh, way more. Order of magnitude more.
Denina is pricey. There's always the what is that other area on 5th Avenue? I'm drawing a blank here.
Anything downtown is going to be astronomical.
Yeah. And we're looking for during the day as well, aren't we? It can't be just an evening thing.
It can be whatever we want it to be. I mean, it could be during just the evenings. It could be like I
could try to explore the option of using my work facility, though it would have to be strictly evening, like 7 o'clock or later.
Right.
And it would would only accommodate it. It'd be like a single room at 40 people. Conference room at best.
Have we explored
a little bit challenging?
Have we explored the route of the BP Energy Center?
Who is that? Yeah, that's why we had to move out somewhere else. They are too booked.
I guess I didn't get that, or was not quite there with that one.
Yeah, they're booking out like 18 months in advance right now.
Sweet Lord. Okay, never mind.
So, unfortunately, if we can't find another site, then I'm not really sure what options we have.
If I
Sorry,
look
go
around
ahead.
Kenai, would you guys be opposed to moving it down to Kenai if I found a place?
Whatever, screw Kenai. No, seriously, anywhere is fine. I mean, it does, the city it's in doesn't matter. It just needs to be the right facilities. Now, there is something that that the CoC can do, is you guys can review the budget for the event, and if you're willing to authorize a higher budget, then sites that aren't free can be looked at a little harder. So right now, I believe the budget is designed around the fact that the site wouldn't really cost any money.
Oh, people are talking to me in YouTube chat. I can't see. Oops.
But unless you give Hadelin some more resources to work with, her options are super duper limited. Because I know that like we looked at like the Salvation Army, you know, and using like their whole facilities. They have multiple rooms and stuff.
Right.
And that's an option, but it's, you know, they wanted like $50 per hour per room, you know, things like that. But if we had money for it, then we can make that work. There's also some other places out in Palmer, like the train depot and stuff like that are pretty nice facilities for this sort of thing. Again, you know, it costs money. Train depot would be pretty sweet though, because it's right across the street from the hotel we were at for Dungeon Crawl. And it's a neat facility. It's got multiple rooms and a really huge room that you can do stuff in, and so also got a kitchen. Think about it.
Is the Palmer Rec Center?
The what?
The Palmer
Rec Center?
Palmer Rec Center.
Yeah, that's where they have the where they play Amcard.
Right. Would that be possibly available?
Yeah, it just costs money. There's not a lot of. I don't think they let people rent the like admin rooms anymore. I think it's just the gym. There is some space outside the gym. So I mean, but we could, you know, you could have a couple of classes in there, and that's like right across the street from the depot. You know, so there's, you know, there's that, and the event could be held at multiple locations if they're close enough to each other, and that's definitely an option. I can also look at sites on the fairgrounds. Again, it just costs money.
Okay. I've got a few people inquiring in a few different locations based on this. So there are people watching live. Yay. Let's not let that slide. We'll let... Oh my God, I'm having to read things from all over the place.
Welcome to the crown.
Right. It's like my brain's gonna just all over. Maybe able to get the Anchorage Community Works help. Yeah. I'd like to explore places that don't cost money, because I mean it'd be nice to do it. And I got one so we're gonna between Richter and myself, we're gonna look at he and I work in adjacent buildings, and we're gonna see if either of them have space that UAA might be willing to allow us to occupy.
Okay. Just keep in mind the sort of activities that we'll be doing in them.
Okay. Alrighty. All right. Anything else about the Grand Academy? Site seems to be a big issue.
Yeah, there's not much that can be done until a site is identified.
Right. Okay. All right. I'm going to jump to the next item unless somebody wants to stop me. Nope. Okay. Waiver updates. Have we seen anything from other kingdoms yet? I guess
not
that
yet.
was our ambassador. Okay. Nothing.
Yeah, there's not much I can really do until I'm done with this housework up here next week.
Fair enough. And I assume nothing on Cameron's end either about lawyer.
I've not found any lawyers. I found quite an assortment of websites,
Okay.
like legal type websites saying, this is how you do a waiver. But like finding lawyers that do them might be a thing that lawyers don't actually do.
Okay.
Which actually might make sense given what I've found about waivers not necessarily being reliable for actually protecting you from liability.
Yeah, it's not.
So might be just something that lawyers don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole.
So the update I have is that I got a bunch of samples from Jennifer Suter and myself. She sent me a bunch of samples in private message a little bit ago, and I actually had a couple from other things that I had seen, and I put them all in a folder in the CoC folder. So at your guys' convenience, feel free to take a look at those and kind of just see what they're saying and what they're doing. That can be something we work off with or work from in the future. So anyways, I just want to move on from that one, and we'll come back to that. Yeah, soonish, but not tonight. All right, Charles, putting you on the spot. So,
I mean, lack of really information, and it is partially my fault. I'm working on my house.
Item 1 is UAF Club. Any idea how that worked?
It went pretty good. I was under the impression on my way to the event that I was going to be a support role. Ended up me being the only one, but we did reasonably well. I ended up coming with a stack of flyers, maybe 30 or so. Got rid of all of them. Saw some familiar faces come back to the park. It was decent. It's not as good as I wanted it to be. It's kind of a sore spot for me, at least on that one. We're hoping to do a lot better with the Eielson Comic-Con coming up. I don't know if that really or not.
Okay. Yeah, actually, that's the next item was the Comic-Con. And so that's Saturday, September the 29th, right? Middle of the day.
Mm-hmm. 11:30 to 3.
Yep. You had a bid together. Did everybody get a chance to take a peek at the bid that he posted?
I did not get a chance to. I've been busting my rear with work this last week.
Fair enough.
I didn't realize it got posted.
Yeah. I didn't even see that there was a bid posted.
Oh, really? Okay. It's in the
I'm hurt.
on the CoC page. But anyways, it's a nice quick little rundown of what their little plan is. It's just it was nice, simple. I'll give you a thumbs up. I looked at it.
It's just a simple plan for our little backwater out here.
I mean, it's basically some questions to prompt them to be like, here, think about this idea, this idea, this idea. And he just ran through and was like, yeah, we're going to keep it simple and we're going to do a thing and it'll be awesome. And I was like, yeah, good job.
I do have a question. I did review it.
Yeah.
Under budgetary considerations, it says Astral Winds does not require any aid from Northreach budget for this event. Does that mean you're not spending money or that you have the money on hand there?
The only money that we were required to spend was a $50 booth registration, to reserve a booth. That fee's already been taken care of, so we don't need any assistance with that.
Well, we still have to record it because that is a budgetary concern. It is.
Okay. So yeah.
This isn't.
One of our members took it upon himself to supply the $50 fee for the booth, and then we're just planning on selling some swords and doing a fighting ring again.
Make sure your member knows they can submit a reimbursement request so Northreach can pay for that.
Yep, he's aware. I think he's done it a few times.
We all know who, and we've all heckled him, and he probably won't take our money. So
yeah, well, that's his way. He likes to help out. So,
but you should give him a hard time about that too. So don't let it.
every weekend.
Do you have all the materials and whatnots you need to make swords?
Oh yes, we got all that covered.
Yeah, we should also probably track the cost. I'm not sure on the legalities of the finances, but that's at least an in-kind donation of $50.
Correct.
Okay.
I'll get you guys some forms over for helping with tracking. I'm trying to standardize how we're tracking those events monetarily.
Alrighty.
Alrighty. Anything else about that one? Anybody got any other questions? Nope. Okay. So this is the big meat of this meeting. We're gonna run through the yeah, somebody sighed. The RFBs, and we're planning out, as per last meeting, the 2019 dates and the 2020 dates, because we're gonna really overstep, but I think that's a good thing. And so I don't know if do you guys have this all open and see where I included the name of the thing and then the month that the event actually takes place, generally.
Let me go get that open real quick.
Okay.
It's in our shared folder, right?
It's not in the Google Drive per se, but I put it in the CoC, the meeting.
Facebook?
Yeah, the Facebook.
He's got it on the agenda here.
Yeah, it's on the agenda.
I'm going there right now.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I see you and I hear you, Hunter. All right, you guys ready?
Yep.
All right, Alaska State Fair. We're gonna go alphabetically because that's the way I had it listed. That may not be super helpful. We can bounce around, but let's just start with Alaska State Fair. Generally happens, near the end of August. So we have 2 dates. Well, okay, there's 4 dates, so it's 2 dates per year. There will be the review date that we would like people to be submitting things. Or no, is this the same date? Okay, maybe I mixed up my concepts. There's a date that the CoC is going to say it's too late. We have to assign somebody. There's a date that the CoC is basically going to take over running any particular event, right? And then I have another date here that's labeled the review date, and that should be a little bit before the default date, the one where the CoC takes over, right? That sound right, guys? Give me a yay. No, okay, come on.
Yeah,
It sounds right in my head.
Okay. It's like, this is not talking to myself.
The other option is to just have like a decision date, and on that date, the CoC either accepts a bid or assigns it to themselves.
So combine them as one thing.
Yeah, that way, just like if there's a bid, you guys have the option of accepting it, and if and you can not accept it and assign it to yourselves, or if there's no bid, you can just assign it to yourselves.
I kind of like that idea.
That works.
I guess I was thinking, okay, yeah.
I think the original idea was to have one that would be when it was expected to be due, so we'd have a chance to look it over before the drop dead date.
Let's play it as we have one date that it'll be like a CoC meeting date, and it'll be like I have to have it before the CoC meeting, or the day before or whatever. Say we're having it on Monday, it would have been due September 16th, at 11:59 p.m. or something. And we'll play off that. And then as we work through it, if we need to add like, oh, go 2 months back or something like that, we'll add those dates as needed. So for 2019's Alaska State Fair, when does the CoC want to assign or take over? When's our decision date? 6 months?
I was gonna say 6 months.
I was going to say much shorter, 3 months.
No, that doesn't give them enough time.
As the last person who had to run this thing, Jay, what would you? Yeah.
Well, here's my question to the council then: if you choose somebody 6 months out, then who's going to be responsible for applying for the contract and things that are needed a year earlier? So I mean, you can do that. Somebody just has to be responsible for that. You could make the autocrat of the event responsible for applying for the following year's event. Make that part of their duties. Just make sure it's very clear who's responsible for making sure that it happens. Because if you try to sign up for the state fair in February, you won't be able to.
Right.
That has to happen in September.
I think for the Alaska State Fair, it would. Does anybody have any? Does anybody think we're going to stop doing it?
Not after this year. Not ever.
No, this year was fantastic.
So it's not unreasonable to make that assertion that we'll always have whoever, your final one of your final closing tasks is that you are applying for next year's run.
Yeah, I see that reasonable.
I think that's fair. And what is that? Just a handful of paperwork? What?
There's just some forms you got to fill out, and then you got to pay $50.
Okay, and that's just part of the budget for the as we roll forward. So, okay, I don't think that's unreasonable. Does 6 months feel like enough time to prep? Otherwise?
Yeah, unless we do any really big format changes, 6 months is enough time. It's probably more than enough time.
Should we tighten it?
I think that at Dungeon Crawl, you should totally be able to announce who's going to run State Fair.
Okay.
I think that's a good idea, and it gives them time to get it together. But I don't think they need more than that.
That'd be 7 months.
Yeah, I guess technically. I guess I consider the state fair to start like as soon as Wolf's Cry's over. But I guess the fair actually opens at the end of August. So yeah, it'd be 7 months. But I still think that's a good cutoff date.
Anybody have another date? Or opposition? Okay. I wrote it in as end of January. For 2020, just make it a recurring thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say go ahead and make that a recurring thing.
All right.
Easier for everybody and for the next CoC.
Here's our freebie. Dungeon Crawl is already lined up for 2019. So when should we assign the autocrat for the 2020 Dungeon Crawl?
I would say no later than Wolf's Cry 2019 is when we should have that figured out.
How many months is that?
That's roughly 6 months.
I think that's kind of cool because then you can announce and everyone would know who the autocrat is, and it'd be cool.
I think you should announce it at Dungeon Crawl.
Yeah, with the format changes you're looking at for Dungeon Crawl, Goran, do you think 6 months is good, or should we move out to a year?
Yeah.
No.
So
You need a year plus.
Or 2 years?
Yeah, right. I think anyone that's not stepping into it for the first time would be able to do just fine with a year. I think that's a reasonable amount of time. Like, I think at Dungeon Crawl you should be announcing who's going to run Dungeon Crawl the next year.
okay.
Yeah, I forgot about those format changes.
Which we're not talking about too much yet, right? Or
This would also be an end of January, because we'd want to have that determined before Dungeon Crawl.
get out of my document. That means All right. So I wrote January 2019. And the idea here, just for anybody watching, is I think that as soon as we get these dates lined up, I'll probably let everybody have another 2 weeks to look at the bids, make sure there's no language or anything. We'll generalize the budget lines and maybe say something like, these are the expected budgets, or these are the previous year's budgets, but no promises, guarantees. Things could change, depending on how we do a budget in February. And we'll start posting these things on the website then. So I think that's kind of the plan that we're rolling with, but we wanted to get some dates lined up. Frozen Odyssey generally happens in June-ish.
I would
Right?
give that one 6.
Do you think that can be 6 months?
Yeah, I've seen it be put on, and I don't think it should be rushed because there's a lot of questing involved, which takes a lot of planning.
Do we want to say December then? I'm just saying, so I'm thinking the 6-month timeline puts it, the January, December holiday area, right? Do you want to have that firmed up a little bit before Christmas, or do you want to tighten it a little bit and have it be in January?
Yeah, I would say right after Christmas because everyone's going to be so busy with the holidays.
Okay. So, so we'll say mid-January. Does anybody think that we just do that again, for 2020? Do we want to expand these timelines, give people more planning time? I mean, that was one of the notions. I guess we're kind of doing that for Dungeon Crawl and for once we get down to it, Wolf's Cry. I guess for some of these smaller ones, do we want to make it so you're God dang it. So who's running it way in advance? Is that important for these smaller ones?
By smaller ones, you mean like Highland games and stuff?
Well, even Frozen Odyssey.
I see personally, I don't view Frozen Odyssey as a small thing, but
How many people showed up this year?
I don't remember.
So like
there's quite a few. There was quite a few at Frozen Odyssey this year.
It was high 30s. I can look it up real quick, but I'm pretty sure it was in the high 30s.
I was gonna suggest the council discuss where you guys want to draw the line for where bids and autocrats are required, and it might be in the organization's best interest at least to discuss the idea of having an event threshold where anything under that threshold is just automatically assigned to that local region to do with whatever they want.
That actually is going to make a lot of sense.
Things like Highland Games, Yuki Fest, things like that. Those could probably just be always considered regional events that are assigned to the regional executive officer of that region, and just expect them to handle it. And they can appoint an autocrat if they want to, or handle it themselves, or whatever. Like that might be worth discussing because some of these events don't need to go through the bid process. It's just the really big ones where we're throwing thousands of dollars at them, and a bad event impacts hundreds of our members. Like those are the things that we want to make sure there's a certain level of quality control on. But something I don't know, like if Icefire Bay does a questing weekend, like they don't need to bid it out.
Right. If we do that, and I think we should do, I mean, I'm leaning towards yes, we should do that. I still think we should come up with some other, even if it's a smaller process for some of these other things, so that people that have never run an event before that are like, I'm going to do Yuki Fest this year, or I'm going to do, like the Isleston Comic Con thing. We should have a list of things, pointers, basically, at the very least, to say, this, go through this checklist.
Like a guideline, kind of?
Yeah, just so it's like, hey, when you hit the money of like the reservation fee, that's a thing that's in a budget that we can supply. You don't have to go shake somebody down for $50 locally to make it happen.
That might be a cool thing to assign to the Regents Council to put together how to run a small event or best practice kind of guide.
Yeah, that actually might be really awesome. See, And then I guess there's a question. Do we want to just add that and decide that right now? And we could trim a huge chunk of what we're deciding on dates and what we're going to post. What's our threshold for an event that we want to handle as a council? Is it something where more than 60 people on average attend? Does that sound like a good arbitrary number? Does anybody?
You might want to. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna ask what the numbers were for Solstice War, since somebody's digging around in the orc right now.
Oh yeah, shoot, I checked. You might want to actually just pick specific events, and maybe you pick like the top 4 or 5 most important events to the kingdom, and then everything else becomes a regional event, and then you guys just reevaluate on a regular basis. Like, hey, this event's gotten really big. Maybe we should vote to put it under the the big event process. Because like Frozen Odyssey is a great example where it's kind of a smaller event attendance wise now, but 2 years from now it might be 100 people showing up. And instead of, I don't know, like trying to come up with an arbitrary number now, and pick the events that you guys feel are the most important, and then just reevaluate that maybe once a year.
I could agree with that.
But then would the small events get overlooked?
Well, they'll be assigned to a regional executive officer whose job is to advocate for them. So if they get overlooked, it's because someone's not doing their job.
Or because someone in the course of doing their job decided that event wasn't worth bothering with.
Well, that's their prerogative as the regional executive officer, I guess. I don't know.
I'm just saying it's not necessarily a matter, deciding, no, we're not going to spend time on this isn't necessarily not doing your job.
Well,
Right.
unless they really needed to spend time on it, in which case I guess they're doing their job poorly. I don't know. but yeah, no, I hear you there. But I think it's okay to trust our regional executive officers to a certain degree to just handle the junk that goes down in their region. Like that's what they get hired for.
So how, just hypothetical, if we said Frozen Odyssey was below the threshold right now and that it needed to be handled at the regional level, they were given a budget last year, right, from the CoC. What was that, $1,000? If I
Yes.
remember correctly. That budget would not exist for them if they were doing a regional level event or running
Well,
it.
sure it would if they requested
if you
that as
guys
part
wanted
of their
to be
budget
there.
for the region for the year.
Yeah, you guys.
Okay,
can assign,
so
you
we
can
would
say
still.
Coast.
I'm just making sure we're lining up this process right. So we would still assign a budget to all of the events that made it on our radar, and then we would just say it's still regional executive officer. Here's the money. You got it, or you figure it out.
So you got a couple different ways you could do that, right? You could call out and say, okay, here's the budget, here's the SenjiCon budget, here's the Solstice War budget, here's the Tanana Valley Fair budget. You can do that totally, even if it's assigned to a particular region. You could also say like Frozen Coast. Here's your operating budget. It is $3,000, and this is to be used for your day-to-day events as well as these big events or smaller events or whatever, to use flexibly however you guys feel you need to use it. You can do that too, which gives them the option of spending more on one event, than what you had anticipated the year earlier. It gives them some flexibility, and because it's a smaller amount of money overall, there's less risk to the organization to do that. Because like if they had, I don't know, and I'm just sort of picking on Frozen Coast, but let's say they've got Frozen Odyssey, they've got the 4th of July parade, and I don't know, like insert 3 other random events here. Giving them $3,000 to do all of those events might be easier than locking them into a specific number for each event, because then they can be flexible. They might say, well, we only spent this much money on this event, so we can throw more money at Frozen Odyssey because it's all part of our operations budget or our events budget or whatever, without having to constantly run back to the council and say, hey, we'd like to spend a couple extra $100. We saved $200 on this event, et cetera. It just says, here's $3,000, make the magic happen. And I mean, it's in a $50,000 budget. It's not a huge amount. There's no real risk to us. And it goes back to sort of trusting the officers to do their jobs, which we've had a really good experience in. I don't see any reason for that to be risky. That would be my suggestion.
Right. The only counter to that would be we start looking like we're assigning big inflated budgets to certain groups. Just picking on Frozen Coast, it looks like we're giving them a massive budget where, say, Loop and Moon, because most of their event, like Wolf's Cry or whatever, would be its own partitioned thing. Their operational budget looks, say, smaller.
Well, if you split it between an operational budget and a special events budget,
I like the idea.
Okay.
Right, and I would separate it on the budget line for taking away like standard operations. Like this is stuff for loaner swords and park days, and this is your special events budget. That way, parks are like, hey, Frozen Coast got a huge special events budget, but we don't really have any special events, so I guess we don't need a special events budget, but we still have our regular operating budget, etc. And maybe that will encourage people to start having some more special events.
Yeah, I was thinking at first that you could read a little jealousy between the parks, but then at the same time, it's like, hey, but if you want to do something, come up with an event. And
I mean, you have other parks have lots of events. Loop and Moon's got all kinds of little events going on, and Ravenstone's constantly doing events. They're much smaller, but their A&S stuff is man, a lot of the stuff that they do in that category, I would call a special event because of the way it's handled and attended. So,
side note for all you other people, every time I tell my wife what Ravenstone is doing for their A&S nights, she gets mad that we're not living in Palmer. So
hey, my A&S nights, we're doing leather patches. Rose Daff's going to teach a class.
But anyway, sorry, that was
land in Palmer's real cheap, Chris.
It is, but my work is not close enough.
You can blame my totally awesome regent for all of his cool stuff that he's doing.
I know. I am blaming him.
Getting
causing marital problems.
But I mean, realistically, I would just choose the top 4 or 5 events that you guys think are important, and make those the big ones that you assign lots of money to, and have a bid process and your quality control, and then just throw everything back to the regions and be like, hey guys, we trust you to make this stuff happen.
All right, guys. I like that idea. Anybody opposed to it? I want to make some moves on this.
I am not opposed to it.
I'm not opposed either.
Full steam ahead.
All right, so I'm dropping Highland Games from the list. I'm dropping SenchiCon from the list. Stop me if anybody has a problem with any of these.
Should we pick our top 5 and then just get rid of the rest?
I'm getting rid of the low-hanging fruit.
Oh, okay.
So, and then we can start making questions about specific ones. Tanana Valley Fair in Fairbanks. What are you guys' feelings on that one?
We did pretty good on that one.
No, Astrowinds can handle that, man.
Basically the question is, can your regional group handle it without, bidding this out to the whole state? I think we got that handled. Yeah, I think that's a fair bet.
We got that handled.
So Frozen Odyssey. Do we want to bump that back down and just let Frozen Coast have it again?
I believe in my people in handling it.
Okay. I'm deleting it. Stop me.
Yeah,
Can I?
The other direction.
I kind of want to ask my people about it first.
They elected you to make decisions, Red.
No, that's fair. You put it out as a question. Get some feedback. Drum up some conversation. I'll put some asterisks by it. We'll think about that one.
All right, I'll make a post tomorrow.
Obviously, Dungeon Crawl. I think the top 3 that the CoC is going to keep would be Alaska State Fair, Dungeon Crawl, and
Wolf's Cry.
Wolf's Cry, and then I want to Ren Fair. I'm going back and forth. That's the other one I'm staring at.
I would keep Ren Fair.
No, I would say Solstice Wars would go before Ren Fair.
Right. Okay. That was the other one. Yes. Everybody's texting me right now. I got Solstice Wars on the list. It just haven't gotten to it. Solstice War, do we want to keep it or do we want to let Fairbanks have it?
I think we should keep that as a North Reach.
Well,
I think,
so
yeah.
as the words, okay. Every time I've seen Solstice Wars run, it's been run by someone up here, and I feel it's always been done really well. I mean, the past 4 of them I think I've been to consistently have been awesome. Sometimes a little low on the battle games, but that's just me. But I feel like we always organize it and do it reasonably well. I mean, if the issue here is to try and reduce the amount of things that the CoC is required to do so as to reduce stress, I feel like Astrowinds should be able to manage Solstice Wars on its own without really having to rely on, too much help.
Let me rephrase the question for you. Or just throw this question at you. For Solstice War, with the amount of people that attend it and who's attending it and all that, do you want Fairbanks to be throwing a party for everybody to come visit them, and you guys put it together, run it, you decide it, you don't have to talk to me, talk to us, talk to whoever's king and the rest of the CoC, you guys just do your thing and then we all come and visit? Or do you want us helping you with the decisions and figuring it out along the way? That's kind of, I think, the difference, because it's not so much that like we're not going to strip your budget, we're not going to
No, that's not what I was looking at it from, like, are we capable of planning it? Yeah. My answer to that is honestly a little bit of both, because I mean, just wars that just camp out, fight. It's the good, fun, hang out, chill event. But I suppose in terms of help, I suppose keeping it a North Reach thing would probably be better.
Well, so the one thing to consider is that Astrowinds and honestly Icefire Bay both, they're in a unique situation where any Kingdom Run event in their region is likely never going to be run by anybody outside of their region because of just how remote it is.
That is true. Yeah.
I mean, the likelihood of somebody from Loop and Moon saying, "Hey, I want to run that event," and that happening is pretty slim. Not to say it wouldn't happen, but it's pretty slim.
Yeah.
And, like, let's say I get a wild hair up my butt and I decide I really want to run Solstice War. I can always go and be like, "Hey, Sugarwolf, can I help you guys run this event?" Like, he's the decider on who runs that event. So it doesn't mean that I can't still be involved or even potentially run it completely. It's just that he gets to make the decision. I mean, I don't know. Most of the workers are going to come from there. Like that, the resources for that event are going to come from Astrowinds.
Yeah, I've always viewed, and I please do not take this in any sort of like egotistical ways. I've always viewed like Dungeon Crawl, Solstice, or Wolf's Cry and all that as kingdom events, but Astrowinds is like, or Solstice Wars as Astrowinds event. I think it's just because of like the distance from other events. It feels like its own fresh thing. I don't know.
And it had just under 70 people last year. I don't know if you guys saw that number. So it's actually a fairly well-attended event.
I know.
You want me to put? How about this? Let's put an asterisk by it and then discuss it with. Throw a post out and see if you guys want to take complete ownership over it again.
Okay, I can do that.
Because if your whole group's like, if your whole group's like, this is ours, it's always been ours, it's silly, then yeah, take it back. And if not, we'll keep it up. Alrighty. So we'll come back to Frozen Odyssey and Solstice War. But Ren Fair, that one we should keep, I think. That one's a moneymaker, and it's putting a face out for the group. So we should really, be careful and think about that one. And
I'm sorry, Nilarian, my brain is tired. Ren Fair is like the medieval fair thing, right?
Three Barons Ren Fair, sorry.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, okay. Yes, I think we should keep that one.
Three Barons Ren Fair. It happens in June. Is it the first 2 weekends in June or something like that?
Yes.
Always the first 2 weekends in June.
First 2 weekends. But visiting their website, because I was doing my research, vendor bids, then that would be us as a vendor there, open in January of 2019. Open in January. They have that advertised on their website. My camera decided to stop focusing on me. There we go. So I think we should take that into consideration when we're talking about the date here.
So realistically, then we want to make sure we have our bid in for that before Dungeon Crawl.
Definitely before Dungeon.
Yeah.
I think we need to have this assigned in like December.
Yeah, I think soon as possible, actually.
Yeah.
Because right now it's 5 months if I'm doing my months right.
I'm not going to count. It's too late to count. So let's just assign a date without counting.
Renaissance Fair is 9 months out, approximately.
June, sure. But with the information that the organization starts collecting, and they start collecting it in January, I think we want to have that autocrat lined up. So
yeah, I was going off by January.
Yeah. So should we say December? I want to say
That's good.
Okay. I'm kind of leaning towards earlier December because there's a thing that I call at work the holiday slide. Everything between the week of Thanksgiving and New Year's is just one amorphous blob. Nobody gets anything done really.
I think that's a universal thing there, Nilarian.
Yeah, I mean, I say it and I'm like, I'm not special, but my boss always gives me this funny look, and I'm like, nah, I swear, you're not going to get anything done between Thanksgiving and New Year's. She's yet to prove me wrong. All right, so I just put December 2018 and December 2019. For those ones, we'll just keep it, here. Wolf's Cry. Because I'm going to skip Solstice War because we'll let Fairbanks decide if they want to keep it or not. Wolf's Cry, though. Officially, it says first weekend of August, though I've noticed the last 2 years we're kind of hitting in July. I assume that has to do with availability of the site. Is that
the first weekend in August conflicts with State Fair Prep.
State Fair Prep, okay.
If we want to be inside the fairgrounds rather than outside, then we have to do it the last weekend of July.
Okay. Well, then I'm just going to delete the word August, and maybe that's something we think about in the future going forward is adjusting our language from August.
Speaking of that, wherever that is written in the bylaws and or admin manual that it's the first weekend of August, we really should update that since that's not what we're doing.
Right, yeah. So we should revisit and tweak that. Yeah. Anyways, Wolf's Cry, though. Gord, I'm just going to double check because you said nobody's assigned for Wolf's Cry yet, right?
That is correct.
Okay. So, Wolf's Cry of 2019, when do we want to decide?
I know we can't do this, but for the year after this one, I think a year out is good because it's a really big event.
Yep. Yeah, that's the 2020 question, but for 2019.
As soon as possible.
I want people to think about their bid and have a little bit of time to prep it after I post it on the site. You know, in theory, people have already been thinking about it. I've heard some people talking about, putting together a bid. But I'd like to see some, well thought out bids too for this. So, I don't want to make it due tomorrow.
Maybe November.
Does that seem doable?
That gives them a month and a half to think about it.
A month. Anybody opposed?
Nope.
No opposition here.
Well,
Okay.
if this is our cutoff date where we don't have a bid, we're assigning it to somebody, is that too soon?
I don't
guess
think so.
That was kind of the question for these long stretching ones is at what point does the CoC take it over versus, I mean, we want to give them a date. You know, it's like when you're hiring somebody. You want to give a date where you're like, hey, I reserve the right to hire somebody, but I may not necessarily close the search yet. And that's where I think I had the 2 dates in my head.
I would
these.
just give 60 days.
A 60-day range.
No, like I would just give like starting right now 60 days to turn in a Wolfside bid.
Okay.
And that gives you guys 2 weeks to review them before December 1st.
Okay.
Approximately.
That's agreeable.
Yeah, that works.
I'm just 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Want to just make it due on Veterans Day? I don't know if that's exactly 60 days. November 12th. Hey, it's when I have to go to the doctor again. But hey, that lines up with November. Say November 11th at 11:59 p.m.
Request for bid wolf cry is due.
Yeah. And then if we don't have one, should we just assume we'll get some and then we'll decide what we need to do if we don't?
Yeah, cross that bridge when we come to it.
Okay. No, making idle threats or empty threats.
We'll burn that bridge when we get to it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Stop mixing your, yeah. All right. But for 2020, I like this idea of being very proactive. So the idea is that this would close
June. End of June.
Yeah, Goran, how busy were you as your reign closed up? How busy was the CoC, rather, I guess?
We were pretty busy.
Does it seem unreasonable to review something like this at that point?
I would recommend that you guys review bids. And that's tough. So you can do it a couple different ways. You can make the deadline earlier and review it like, you know, before Crown. There's 1 week of dead-ish time, and that's right after Crown quals. There's really, for the CoC, it's kind of quiet as the prime ministers are doing their thing, getting ready for elections, etc. But then once Clan and Wolf's Cry hits, it's like crazy time again. So that might be the right time to do it.
Okay. Yeah, because that's what I was thinking is that it can get crazy for everybody between doing Crown Quals, Clan. Yeah. But between Crown Quals and so that's going to be right in the beginning of July. And that'll be 2019. So then, yeah, you will, in theory, we'll be able to announce, at Wolf's Cry who the next Wolf's Cry person's going to be. Does that meet everybody's objectives that have been talking about this idea? That's a shout out to the community, Hunter, John. Yeah.
You 4 people in chat, speak up.
Right? Say something. Right meow or forever hold your peace.
Right meow.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I usually try to keep my animals. Never mind.
No, it's fine. I enjoy it.
I'm not at all surprised that Red lost it at the meow.
All right, so that gets us through that list. And so in 2 weeks we'll revisit Frozen Odyssey and Solstice War. Yeah, Solstice War. and see if you guys want to keep it. If you want to post dates, I'll try to get together the documentation for posting on the site, and we'll move forward with that. Any questions or concerns?
Nope.
All right.
Nope.
Oh, sorry, something? Nope. Okay. Last item, and this is kind of just informational because what I'm going to do, I don't know if you guys have looked inside the folder, but on the Google Drive, on the Council of Crowns folder, I made a new file called North Reach Physical Assets. That's the thing I've been talking about, and I put in one of the items. I think it was something that Red sent me. So just kind of as a loose template, and if we can just start putting stuff in there, with all the stuff that you guys gathered over the last 2 weeks, which hopefully you did, that'd be awesome. Put the things in there, and we'll review it in 2 weeks.
Hey, Nolarian.
Yeah.
Something I'm thinking, backtracking just a little bit.
No.
Do we want to set a bid date for the new castle being built?
That was what I forgot to put on the agenda. My plan, and this is with your guys' backing only, of course, is that I wanted to put a post out to the kingdom soliciting for folks' interest in basically being the point person for designing, developing, and forming the team to do the new castle and walls, because I want to combine the idea of the castle and what we've been using at Dungeon Crawl. I have not gotten the info or pictures back. Have you guys seen anything about the Dungeon Crawl walls? I think Logan was going to take a peek at them and take pictures, but I don't know if he's had the chance to do that yet.
As far as I know, Drake has not had a chance to get at the Dungeon Crawl walls and get a picture of them. Last that I saw them, they are still stacked up behind his dojo.
Okay. And
half stacked and somewhat covered.
What I know of those walls is that they are not in a good shape, and that they are worse than the castle material.
They spent a substantial amount of time after Dungeon Crawl 2018 outside and not really covered in any real way.
Okay.
And in the best of circumstances, depreciation is a thing, and things need to be replaced.
Yeah.
I think they're, what, 4 years old?
4 years old, going on 40 in some of those lengths.
Yeah. So is anybody opposed to the idea of combining the two concepts of what we had previously separated between castle and DC walls and trying to make something that works for both?
I am.
You're opposed.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
And so I'm not opposed to the concept. I'm opposed to limiting it to that. I would recommend to the council that they throw out to the kingdom a competition to see who can come up with the coolest design for a castle and dungeon walls, and that the council thinks it would be cool if they could be used for both, but somebody might surprise you with a really cool design that doesn't necessarily do that we still would be interested in. Yeah. Like, let's let people get as imaginative as possible and throw whatever kind of crazy ideas they've got and see what people come up with.
Yeah.
There might be some cool stuff out there.
Should their ideas include price estimate?
Yes.
Well, yeah, we got to know how much it's going to cost.
Yeah.
I can draw you a pretty picture. You can't afford it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not against the idea, but I'm skeptical that there would actually be something that would work for both the castle and Dungeon Crawl. But I mean, if somebody can come up with something that does, I mean, great.
Okay. But the idea that the current Dungeon Crawl stuff is likely to be retired either immediately or very soon. Is that right? So we're looking at replacing both.
yeah, they definitely both need to be replaced.
If not a complete replacement, at least to go through and find out what does need replaced. And I'm going to say at least the majority of the dungeon crawl walls are going to need replaced.
Okay. Okay. So we should, have that. Oh, so that brings part of the point. We need to assign a person that will, but this part can come later. So we should do the competition, like the competition of design, and let everybody throw their bids. But I think we should make it clear, unless you guys disagree, but I think we should make it clear that just because your design or your concept wins doesn't necessarily mean that you'll be the team lead for enacting the plan. Does that seem fair?
Yeah.
Very fair, yes.
Yeah.
Because I think there might be some people that, could come up with a really awesome plan, but may not necessarily,
Architecting is one job, building is a different one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and honestly, stating that policy very clearly might encourage people to come up with plans who don't want to build it.
Good point.
Fair. Alrighty. So we'll try to get that out. Do you guys want me to just like draft some language, throw it in the CoC page? You all give it an approval. We won't wait for the CoC meeting. Does that sound fair?
I'm down for that.
Okay.
Yeah, we can go ahead and do that.
We don't need to wait 2 weeks. Okay. All right. That was the end of the list of things that I had. Does anybody have anything else they want to add or bring up?
Just kind of tagging onto that a little bit, maybe allocating any funds that are still remaining from the, hang on, I'm switching tabs here. This window. What is that line item? Castle upkeep. Any funds remaining from the $2,000 allocated for castle upkeep, allocate that to construction of the new castle and or dungeon crawl walls.
I think that was kind of implied. Is that, so where are we headed with that?
Well, as opposed to letting that in. So the way the budget is, any of this money that is not spent by February is just unspent funds in that portion of the budget.
I thought we
Rather-
agreed
rather
to
than-
already use that towards the castle.
Oh, I guess
Not-
we haven't explicitly voted for that, but
Well,
Right.
So building a new castle, it would definitely fall under upkeep of the castle. That's both spirit and written rule. However, if you don't actually spend that money by February, then you'd have to vote on appropriating money again. And if you haven't spent it, you just say like, well, we're just going to keep spending it. But you'd have up until February to start spending money on that.
yeah, I don't think there's anything we need to worry about today.
I say we spin it, then spend it again when we have it.
That's how we're at. Alrighty. Any other questions? Anybody got any other items? We gonna end close-ish to an hour?
I got nothing.
Nothing for Master Wins.
Ravenstone's doing pretty good. We got our last questing outdoor done, and we're smooth sailing from there.
Awesome.
I have a few points, but they're not CoC things. They're more things that I would discuss with you personally. They have nothing to do with Northreach. Just
Okay.
I'm in over my head with this position, and I need help.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, then let's say good night to everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and I'm gonna shut down the feed now.
All right.